juice. Shit. Yeah, I'm spending all my cash on my in my frame. Take a picture.
Hi guys, welcome back to another exciting episode of Who Got the Juice podcast, where we explore the art of filmmaking, storytelling, and everything that fuels creativity behind the camera. And let me tell you, today's guest is without a doubt with the juice. Today we're honored to have Naledi Bogacwi with us, an award-winning producer and co-founder of the esteemed independent film house, Trial by Media Films. With a master's degree in film and television, Naledi's journey into cinema has been nothing short of extraordinary. Her first feature film, Letters of Hope, premiered in competition at the 40th Durban International Film Festival and was celebrated for artistic bravery. She followed it up with Surviving Gaza, which racked up an incredible 14 nominations at the African Academy Awards, winning 3, including Best Director. And now, with her debut feature film, Bannned, she's breaking new ground yet again. So grab your notepad, your headphones, and your love for film, because this conversation is about to inspire and ignite you. Naledi, welcome to the show. Clearly, you have got the juice.
Thank you, Kadli. Thank you so much. It's so nice to say, oh, I didn't know I'm esteemed.
You are esteemed.
Thank you so much for the beautiful introduction.
You're welcome. Naledi, could you start by telling us about your background in filmmaking? What inspires you to tell the stories that you tell? And what are the stories that you find yourself drawn to?
Okay, I'll just give you a little background on who I am. So I'm Naledi Bogacwi. I was born in a very small village called Taung in the Northwest province in South Africa. And really, I was raised by a teacher, dedicated in that regard. And they had a very firm they had a very firm hand, right, in ensuring that reading and being able to express yourself at home was an important factor in us growing up. So growing up, I was then part of a community theater because you had to find something recreational at home that you could be doing. So I was then part of this group at home, which is a theater group at the Mabana Cultural Center, where then I found the love for storytelling and having the opportunity to then stage my own plays at the age of like 13. That's when I staged my first play, which was quite remarkable. And then I went on to study at the National School of the Arts, and I studied dramatic arts there. Then I furthered my education at the Tshwane University of Technology, of course, at film school, where I then graduated in my master's degree, as you have mentioned, in film and television. So, sure. The stories that I've always felt the need to tell, what has inspired my stories, has really only been, okay, let me say, I've always looked up at those who have done it before me, who look like me.
Okay.
And that always mattered to me as to what are they doing and how are they telling the stories that they are telling. And here we are talking about, the likes of the father of African cinema, Osman Sembene. When we get to South Africa, we're speaking about Ramadan Sulman, we're speaking about Chavin Waliruli, we're speaking about Okino Motoso.
Please welcome Akino Motoso.
Right, who is Nigerian South African, but filmmakers who really deal with themes of colonialism, post-colonial struggles, and really social political issues that are facing African society. So that's the kind of work that I'm always drawn towards, because I want to, the plan or what always burns me inside is to really continue telling the legacy, or rather to continue this legacy by creating films that are both reflective and transformative. So really by tracking issues about things that are close to us. So things that are about how I look, but they are so the topic is about being Black, or how they contribute directly to my Blackness or my Africanness, but the story is then global. So basically that.
Awesome, awesome. You actually answered like a lot of questions I was gonna ask, but this is very interesting that you started like your storytelling journey at such a young age. Because even when you lectured us, I could tell that you have this burning desire of story, and the passion that you have for storytelling is amazing. It's remarkable to see where it started from. Right. Your recent film, Bannned, has been getting a lot of attention. Like, could you just tell us about the inspiration behind it and what motivated you to tell this story?
Sure, Bannned. Oh, yeah, it's funny. Bannned is getting so much attention, which is quite exciting, and that means it's doing the right thing. So Bannned was inspired by really the need to explore and document the South African complex history of censorship. Right. So during my research with Bannned, so as for those who don't know, I've been in the lecturing space of African film, or rather, African film and criticism for quite some time in screenwriting. And in one of the universities that I've worked at, I was given a task to put together the African film curriculum from first year up until BTech level. So I did that at the university, and I had a problem with how little history of South African cinema there is, how limited and how colonial it was still. And in putting the curriculum together, it was a frustrating process for me. And that's then how Bannned came across me, because then, in doing my research, I started then trying to focus on the subsidiary films. The subsidiary, how did we? So the subsidiary is commissioning, bringing it today. So this thing has been there for so long, and Black films, there's only like a paragraph, not even half a page, a paragraph on Black filmmakers when you're speaking to South African filmmakers. And, that's when I got the idea. And moving into Bannned, I then doing my research, I came across the story of Joe Bullitt within that research. And it was the first film to feature an all-African cast. Despite its non-political issues, the film, the nature, and it lacked a lot of political affiliations about the apartheid government or how things were happening, but yet the apartheid government banned it. So for me, it was a very pivotal moment that made me realize that censorship during apartheid was not only about suppressing political dissent, but it was also really about silencing the everyday lives of aspiring Black people, basically. So the government aimed to maintain this, like if you are depicting Black people, they are a threat to white people, to white society. So any portrayal of Black people living harmoniously or prospering, or let's say driving a car, or living a peaceful lives in Soweto contradicted the propaganda that the apartheid government had, and that had to be suppressed, right? So the realization really motivated me to delve deeper into how censorship was then used to control and manipulate societal perspective. So that's then how Bannned was born. A project to really expose and really to document true reasons, really true reasons behind censorship.
Yes.
Behind censorship and the impact it had to the lives, to Black South Africans, to the lives of Black South Africans. So that's where Bannned came from.
It's really interesting because I did read the synopsis of Bannned, and then I also went and watched Joe Bullitt again, and then like for the first time actually had to. I was supposed to watch it like 2019, but I did not.
But you are actually one of the first young people to watch it.
Yeah.
So it's an achievement, and congratulations for seeing it.
Yeah, which was going to bring me to my second question, because like I wanted to ask you, what was the goal, or what did you want to get out of the audience for the film? But you did answer the question. You did evoke that curiosity in me to be like, wait, okay, so there was censorship happening, and I haven't even watched the documentary, but it's because of just finding out about it, reading about it, and I was like, oh, Joe Bullitt was censored, and I'm pretty sure it's like one of many films that were censored and other things. But my point is, I was going to ask you, like, what was the goal with the film, but you did answer that, and I think
but I would like to go into it if actually so when you're saying what was the goal, like, right, KG, and you're correct. Really, it's I think when people see the goal, yes, is to document censorship and to see the impact of it on Black lives. But what I would really want the viewers to take away from it, I think that's what you are actually asking me when they see it, right, is to really gain a deeper understanding of its impact, right, on South African cinema and the society, and to reflect and to really have a conversation that is centered around reflecting, right, and of how far we've come as an industry, and how censorship is now, where censorship is now in South Africa, and to really speak about the resilience of the filmmakers who defied censorship, during the apartheid time, and the importance of reserving our cultural heritage. I think we are losing that completely, which is one of my fears and one of the things that really keeps me up at night. So that we can really get into this debate about the ongoing representation of actors, because our actors still today, they have serious concerns. They have a bill they're trying to pass. The serious concerns that we're having. So the ongoing representation of Black actors. Let's speak about Black exploitation. Is it still there? Let's speak about freedom of expression. Can filmmakers really tell the stories they want to tell? Will they reach the audience they want to tell them? Will they get onto the streaming platforms? Will they get to cinema? Do we still have cinema in South Africa? So we need to speak about freedom of expression and representation of actors. So I really want people to really understand the impact of censorship in South Africa and the society, and where, because it has really impacted us as to where we are today. And how do we resolve?
It's very, I like how you really get into it. Like, I can tell you're a film critic, And then how was the approach with you telling this story? Like, and what are some of the challenges that you faced creating Bannned or putting together Bannned?
The challenges of Bannned. I think Bannned really, when my obstacles with the film were really, Bannned took a long time to put together, first, because it's already a film that's there. And we used Joe Bullitt as the spine within Bannned. Yes. So Bannned is not just about Joe Bullitt, but it's about censorship through theater, through music, through film. It's just that Joe Bullitt is then the spine that introduces us to other filmmakers, to other theater practitioners, to other musicians, novelists, storytellers who were banned in the 70s. So the obstacle for me always was, how do I, what's the word? Well, the first thing was securing the rights. There's still a producer in me, right, in this directorial. And it was always, how do I secure the rights? Because Bannned is already, Joe Bullitt is already there. So that is a process that took a good 2 years to secure, because rights are expensive. It's 2 to 3 years. And then from there, from the filmmaker, I was really fortunate that Tony van der Merwe was still alive at the time. His soul rest in peace. And he was also very shocked as to, you want to make Joe Bled? People are not interested. I'm like, you have no idea. We are people who are interested.
Yes.
And, we got into that relationship of securing the rights to then use the film as our spine in that regard. And so that took 3 years, and it was because you had to raise the funds. That was one of my biggest challenges. And because I work with Visa Africa, and at the time, this is my first directorial, and he's always directed.
You're
and
producing.
he was producing for me this time.
So it was vice versa this time.
It was vice versa. And this time around, he kept saying, we're gonna get these right. You're burning, it's burning you, it's gonna happen. Just be patient with it. It's a documentary, it's not a feature film. So then that process happened. Finally, we secured the rights. And then another biggest challenge was then securing my players in the film, my narrators of the film, right? And sure, it was quite difficult because in the process of creating Bannned really presented significant pressing or let me say this. So some of the individuals I had initially hoped to include had unfortunately passed away.
Oh.
Right. By the time we began production. For others, although they were once integral figures into the creative space, they were no longer willing to participate, which was another issue for me. And that was either due to the fact that they had left or their departure from the industry, or for personal reasons, because it has these sensitive issues that we are tackling. So these were really these were prominent voices of those who I really needed their involvement within the film. So then I had to rethink the direction and the tone of the documentary. And this was really disheartening, as disheartening as it was at the time. It also then pushed me and us as a team to then explore new perspective and avenues, and ultimately shaping the film in ways that we had not initially anticipated. So it worked in our favor, but it was quite disheartening that securing prominent figures or individuals that I initially wanted, those things couldn't have happened because it could have structured the film in a different way. So we had to then redirect.
It's very interesting. Like on the challenges, you spoke about duration and also securing of funds. Like, how long did this film take you? And also, when speaking to like securing funds, like what does that look like? Are you peeking into your own pockets? Are you looking for funding? What is the procedure there?
So in the process of securing the rights, that is an investment from Durban.
Okay.
So that is money from the company that the company has used throughout other films. That's an investment, and then there's personal money that you then take
yourself.
out as well, yourself, and because it's a tricky one because you're not going to make your money. When we're looking at it, it's about telling the important story and obviously monetizing there later. But we know the scale are not the same with a fiction film, right? They'll never be the same. So in terms of funding, the process of rights, that was it. The company investing and personal money coming in. And fortunately, we were able to secure funding for production phase of the film, and we were supported by 2 key government agencies as well. And the first was the PESP, which is the Presidential Special Employment Stimulus Program, right? Which allocates funding to the sector like ours, through the National Film and Video Foundation, of course. And this support for me was really critical in allowing us to really bring this project to life. And also, it's a film about film.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Yes. So it was bound for them to come on board. Yet again, we're celebrating 30 years of democracy. So when we started the film about 7 years ago, the intention was to release in 2024, to be part of this time of 30 years of democracy. So that was always the milestone. 3 years of securing and 4 years of making the film. So that was the first part of it. And then the support also, we received some funding from the Gauteng Film Commission, which is a federal provincial fund, which was particularly relevant as the film was shot in Gauteng. Yes. So we had those bodies. We then had private investment from Trial by Media, and we had what I like to coin as sweat capital. And so these are the contributions that made the film.
Yeah, so if you're trying to make a film, you must really, really, really fully be into it. You must be willing to save up some money, and then obviously there are other bodies like the NVF and the ones that you mentioned that support the film industry. That is great. I'm pretty sure like there are people that will be watching the podcast and then in whatever format, but the interview that we're having, and maybe this could be helpful to them. Which brings me to my second question. Are there any, for you, like what defines an authentic, like African, or let me be specific, South African story? And what kind of stories do you feel are still untold and underrepresented? Because let's be honest, like the market is saturated. There's a lot of films right now since the development of video on demand. And I feel like a lot of stories for us South Africans, I don't want to be specific, but most of the stories feel very American. I understand we are inspired by Hollywood, but most of the stories don't feel like us. Hence, I pose this question. What are the stories that you think, what defines an authentic South African story? I mean, what kind of stories do you think are still untold or underrepresented?
When we're speaking about authentic South African stories, I would like to say, because I'd like to depart from a point of in South Africa, we are multicultural, we are multilingual. We speak more than one language, and so we are a country that is quite colorful.
Yes.
So it then becomes difficult to say what is an authentic story to me compared to a person who is raised and bred I was raised in the village, in a rural area.
Yeah.
Compared to someone who was raised in a township. I was raised by both parents. Authentic South African stories would be completely different to someone who was raised by a single parent, who grew up in a township. So we depart from different spaces when we make authentic South African stories because of our history, right? So I think maybe when we say what is an authentic South African story, we need to agree that at the moment, yes, I agree with you to an extent that all the stories are now really American. It's like American and turning it into a South African. Let's just put language, the same story in America, let's just put our language, let's use our location. Right? That is happening, and that is a problem that we have at the moment. But an authentic South African story is more a reflection of a person where they come from. So we can't really rule them out and say, this is South African story. It has to be up in the village, or it has to be in the township, or it has to be on a farm for Afrikaners, or it has to be, yeah, let's say we are multilingual and we can express ourselves in different ways. But for me, there's a lot of untapped stories that we have that can be flagship. When we speak about authentic South African story, for me is, can it stand out as a South African story without it being compared to America? Then if it's a flagship film, if it looks like a brand, yes, it's South African. That's why now I think even in the making of the films, our provinces, other people will call them regions. Yes. Our provinces, like the KZN, you have to use the locations, you have to use the
language,
the locations to show South Africa. Right. So an authentic South African story to me would be once we start speaking about stories we haven't tapped into. So for instance, stories that have languages that are, I don't want to say, well, let's say marginalized language. When we speak about marginalized languages, we're speaking about the Mpondo people, which is another Xhosa.
Yeah. I recently just learned about that.
Yes, they are not Xhosa, please.
But they are. Camera Staff just turned 18, and to celebrate this, from the 1st of November to the 30th of November, Camera Staff has a Black Friday special, 18% off on everything that is bought on their site. To take advantage of this Black Friday special, click on the link in the description. Yeah, you were giving an example.
Untapped stories where we need fond filmmakers to come forward and make those films.
Yes.
In Isindebele is also a marginalized, well, because they are a small group also in South Africa, and we don't see enough Ndebele films. Well, Mr. Africa is Ndebele, and he always, makes his films, makes Ndebele the language in his films, right? But we need more people to do this. So we can know about the culture, we can know about the history, we can know about the people. And for me, that's where we are. I was saying to someone the other day, the Fergusons were a flagship of Setswana. And we became comfortable to say, oh yeah, no, this is Koni and Shona, they are doing it. But that was debating, and that's time for Setswana filmmakers to also stand up and tell more rootedly Setswana film.
True.
Right. And it's too much of a burden if it was just one person doing it. We must all jump onto the bandwagon and do it. I know also Slobedu. We don't see Slobedu.
I wanted to say.
We don't see Slobedu.
And a lot of people don't even know about the
difference.
And right now, the time, Lekompo, the genre Lekompo, it's literally derived from Balobedu. They made that genre. Like,
I see, I didn't know that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we're not embracing ourselves in taking pride in who we are, right? Because it doesn't matter where the story happens. If the premise and the language is truly rooted in Setswana, whether you're telling it in Joburg, whether you're telling it in Northwest, it's a film about Batswana, right? Unlike, so we need to embrace that, and that has to be the flagship of who we are, so that those who have paved the way before us to get us into the space and have passed down the baton, those who are in the space now can also hold the space solidly. So when last did we win an Oscar? It's the question that haunts me. When last did we get an Oscar for fiction, right? For fiction. And when last, and it was a good Black story. It was still together, good, did great, right? But we haven't seen a Black person in that space. And we should start asking ourselves questions to say, what's stopping us from getting there? And I think it's because we don't tell those authentic stories that are true to us.
Yeah. And at the same time, it's very difficult to blame the filmmakers, because remember, we we are very influenced by Hollywood, and right now, but with like the development of video on demand, people can just watch films just like that. But I feel like more people are hungry for African stories. More people are hungry for South African stories. We are African, but South African stories, because I think there is a lot of story in Africa, in South Africa specifically, since we derive here. But a lot of people just choose to tell the stories that they think will be appealing to the audience, to us. I get it, we've been exposed to Hollywood, we've been influenced by Hollywood for so long. So why not just give people what they know? That's what I feel like the filmmakers are more on right now. Yeah. Instead of with you winning you guys winning the award for bravery. I think it's because you guys did not go in that direction of let's just do Hollywood. Let's just Control C, Control V in South Africa, put in a little bit of Zulu here, a little bit of, but the stories are not, it's not stories that we really relate to, but it's stories that we as South Africans, we've been watching the whole time, and maybe it's very easy for us to stomach that or to take that in. But I'm just saying, that's what I think, I don't know.
And I agree with you, KG, because I think also, at Tribal Media, we've never made a film that is purely original. And that's because the time has not come yet. We do have original stories. I think people would always think, but Surviving Gaza is original, but Legend of Hope is original.
Yeah.
But we've never made an original narrative. And that's because I don't think we are there yet as a country. And in telling those authentic South African stories and not trying to go to Hollywood, I think we should go back to looking at our history. When we look at our first film, Letters of Hope. So Letters of Hope was where we decided to do it right after varsity. I remember there was a time when I was having this conversation with Vusi about his research, Vusi Africa, about his research that he did in Mpumalanga for the African National Congress at the time. And he was conducting these interviews with different individuals in Mpumalanga. And there were when we spoke about that conversation, and I was now reading this transcript of these individuals who were fighting for the struggle. These are known heroes who were fighting for the struggle. I then came across the Patrick Sibanda's story, and I was like, what? And it was about the letter exchange that happened during the apartheid era. And I was saying to him, oh my God, this is a film. And when he then started telling me about his engagement with that story, and that's how we decided to make Letters of Hope, to borrow from that narrative. And that's an original story that happened. It's true essence to who we are. And that's why we then add the Hollywood, right? Structure, of course.
Obviously,
it's a clear hero's journey. That's artistic bravery. A boy who has a goal, who has obstacles, who has to get into the special world, he gets into this, the 3-act structure as
it's a proven
is.
method, yeah.
Yes, you're right. So we use that American structure because we haven't discovered our own structures yet. Well, we have, we've evolved, but that's the story that's original, that comes from there. And then when we look at Surviving Gaza, it's Vusi Africa's personal story of a friend. Puzi is his friend. That's a township story. They used to play soccer at Gaza in Witbank, right? In another township called Gaza. And Puzi had this dream, and Puzi and his friends, got into the situation of killing the storekeeper, and his dreams started depreciating.
Declining.
That's also not an original narrative, right? We just then add the fiction to make the story cook and smell good. And then, there's Happy, which is coming out in 2025, which is another documentary that we did for his master's program. And that is an original story. Happy Sindani was a sensation in the year 2000, where he was a white kid kidnapped by a black family. And only to find out that he's not white, but he is mixed. In South African terms, we would say colored, right? And that's a very hard-hitting story about identity in South Africa, which is an issue we still have. So that is not an original documentary as well. It comes from somewhere. And then, of course, Bannned, right? It's based on our history. Yes, on our research. So I think the more we go into our history, there's so much in South Africa. There's so much to tell. We haven't told stories like, we haven't touched Soul Blakey. We haven't done Mohudi. At the Mahikeng Sea stories from there, right? We haven't tapped into anything. We have books. So there's so much that we still deduce from where we come from. And we must learn. We must really learn to strike deals of obtaining rights and not cheating the original author, but honoring them as well, fairly so. So we can tell this story, because we run away from that responsibility by thinking we are telling original stories that are not even original, and they don't reflect, or people don't even identify, they don't see themselves in those films. So winning Artistic Bravery for Letters of Hope was solely because it is a true story. And of course, we took the step of making a period piece. No one would think be able to, because it's so expensive. Yeah. But we did it, right? So for me, I think original stories are there. We just need to look back into our history, our books, our political history, if you want, our actual cultural history, our own personal history, family intricacies. I had another brilliant idea yesterday. I was like, just from a conversation, I'm like, that story hasn't been told. I'm just going to make that film. And a woman's stories that haven't been told about how our Black females back in the day influenced the conversations that our great-grandparents were making. They had a strong voice, because now that also has depreciated, and it seems like women had never really played a role in anything, and it looks like, and it's about, these women, we must come first. And I think also we should stop that, but we should use our research to be able to communicate that.
Yeah. Like, I'm really, really, really curious how your mind works, because I feel like you have so much, like your mind is made to just pick up stories. I don't know. You could read an article and be like, wow, that would be a nice story to tell, but from this angle. I'm curious, do you, when you're struck by an idea, do you write it down? Do you put it on the side? Are you like, okay, right now I'm currently working on this, but this I'm going to put it aside. We're going to come back to you. Is that something you do?
It's funny you saying that, KG, because that has been happening. I think that also happened a lot in university. In university, you are fresh, you want to make movies.
Yes.
All these ideas. So you have all these brilliant ideas. And you put them down. That's what I always say in my first class. Get a notebook, put it down. Use your cell phone in notes, put down your ideas, but your cell phone could get lost, so keep emailing it to yourself. But when you have a book, you have it forever, right? So I've always had a notebook to write my ideas. But I think now with story, and I think it's because of that, the picking up of stories and not being able to do everything all at the same time, that made me and the Africa Film Institute, which is a subsidiary to Trial by Media, start what we have called story event. We had our first one this year on the 26th of October. So it's going to be it was the inaugural one. So we're going to have one each year.
Like just
storytellers together.
Oh, that is very interesting. Yeah.
Yes. So that we can speak about how we can preserve story, how we can tell story from an African perspective, from a Black face, from a Black person, because we don't deal with the issues the same way as the Hollywood structure expects us to. It says, like, for instance, in the hero's journey, it will say refusal of the call. Being Black in South Africa,
you can't refuse the call. You don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice, and that's the narrative. And now you lose. We now need to start speaking about things that don't apply to our stories. But what is the alternative to fit in there? What is the research saying? Right? What is the hero with an African face, the book, saying about it? When you get into the special world and we are faced with obstacles, and is that all that we are faced with obstacles? Is that all? There's a point where it says then there's a crisis, right? You then have a crisis, but is it really a crisis? Or do we find in Africa, we find ourselves at the belly of the beast? We find yourself at the abyss. Where it feels like the whole world is falling apart.
Everything.
When you're not getting a job, you lost the job, you are looking, you're not finding it, there's no bread, there's nothing to do. You're faced with everyday challenges, personal challenges that the narrative structure doesn't fit into that traditional Hollywood structure. Like we said, we can't refuse the call. So how do we so that's what the platform is about, is to really focus on how we tell African stories, or Black South African stories, but global narratives, right? That people from Brazil are going to resonate with. Because the history in South Africa politically is very similar. Where Americans are going to resonate with. Because when you look at the journalism in South Africa, where it is, and how journalism is being treated as well in America, we are the same, right? So how do we tell our stories that are going to travel? So that's what the platform is really about. We're speaking folklore, we're speaking African folklore. This year we had amazing filmmakers whose films are coming out in 2025, and that's the premise of it, to bring in filmmakers whose films are due for release, and to start the conversation with the audience, so that when they release, they have people who are interested in the film. We had Primo Morera there, whose film is coming out next year, which is when the cattle waits. Am I correct? Yeah. And then we had Morena, and Morena's Lubunya, which is a feature film that's coming out soon, as well in 2025. He was also breaking down story decisions to making it, the structure that what we are talking about. We had Wakemalachi, who made a wrestling comedy film, which is an allegory of 30 years of South Africa. So it's a wrestling film, but it's actually the state of the country as to how far we've come, right? So very meaty, interesting stories about South Africans. And from South African film, we have Minenze, who also has a short coming out next year. So that's the platform. The platform is for that. We had then Vusi Africa's reading of the scripted the film that he's making next year, which he's been making for the past 6 years now, putting it together, The Killing of a Beast, and to sit there and experience it, the read in this language.
because I remember you guys did put out, Travel Media put out a post about the reading. Was it just a reading with the actual cast, or was it just a reading with an audience or creatives that are in the space?
Okay, so the read for The Killing of a Beast was the actual cast of the film. And they were doing it it was a live read on stage. Right, so you get to experience it firsthand from the characters in this special language that they are doing it in, and to actually feel the room as to where is the story going, what is the story about, so, and the importance of the story. So the audience got to experience it for the first time, and see and actually meet the cast, and then afterwards the discussion to the decisions that he made, to the narrative, and how the characters felt reading the script for the first time, you know, and feeling each other's energy, and because the film is also told in Isitatibe, which is one of the languages in Ndebele that is no longer a common language in the everyday lives. Yes. So.
But is it still spoken? I'm sorry. Is it still? Are there still people that speak it?
Yes, it's now called a very special language that is spoken by special people only. You know. So the film has the language is still there, but the origins of the language is it was a national language for the Ndebele people. It's just not being told. So let's say it has regressed, but now it has been picked up into a special language that's being spoken in special occasions. For instance, if a boy goes to the Killing of a Beast or to initiation school, that's the language that they will learn there. But that was a common, that was an everyday language that everybody spoke once upon a time. So that's the point of the platform, to come together, and it's always a free platform. You're not charging anyone to come in and experience story and be inspired again to tell the stories that we want to tell. I think it's a really a passion project for me, and I think it's gonna help us be able to go back to the cinema because we've let our audience trust us. They've been inside with us from the beginning with the journey. They know the story. They are connected. They are advocates for us as filmmakers, and that's the point. We are there to create a platform for filmmakers to have advocates for us to be able to go back to cinema. That's it.
Yeah, I'm so glad you guys are creating platforms like this. I would definitely like to just send me an invite when you guys are doing it next year. I'll cancel whatever's happening. I'll take leave. I actually want to be in these spaces, because it goes back to the conversation we had earlier. Like, what are the authentic stories? How do you get there? But it's people, it's the creatives, it's the filmmakers coming together to say, who are we? How do we tell our stories? How do we identify? How does the world see us? How do we see ourselves? You know, it's stuff like this. I'm really happy and glad that you guys are creating a platform. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, I wouldn't know if we haven't had this conversation, but I'm glad. And I also hope the audience, if like aspiring filmmakers and somebody that is in the filmmaking space who wants to become a filmmaker, they could also pop in. Like you said, it's free. It's a passion project. All right. Which brings me to my other question. Like, Naledi, so this is me. I'm just giving you an example. This is me. I'm a child living in the village. I have internet connection because I can buy data. I'm very passionate about filmmaking. I want to tell stories, and I think about this every day. What advice would you give to this person? Let's just say this person does not even have the money to go study in film school or whatever. What advice would you have for them today, like to start their filmmaking journey?
I think starting a film. I think I've had the privilege to go to film school, and my first response is always, please just go to school, right? and that's from a privileged point of view. And when you're speaking about someone who's getting rejected or the marks are not good enough to get them into the university, but they are burning with story inside them, what do we say about those individuals? I think I think I think for me 2024 was really time for reflection and really going back to self. Where you know reading is one of the biggest things that can make you a filmmaker.
Okay.
So immerse yourself in the reading. Like read. There's this book called Storytelling for Dummies, which really make filmmaking for dummies. Which disturbs me that it's called for dummies, right? And there was one time in my life where I had to teach with that book.
You taught really us with that book.
It's really frustrating me that it's called for dummies, right? But I think it's one of the most. I think the name is wrong, but it has the basics of what is a story, what is a protagonist. It starts from the basic. How do you tell stories? So it's one of the books that a person could have to really start the journey. Or if you can't even afford to buy a book, go onto the internet. There's no film school website where they give you how to write a script, how a script looks like, how so do the reading, do the research, learn how to write the structure of a film, meet filmmakers. I think that's the biggest thing. When we do the story event, come because it's open to everybody. Come and meet other people. Really meet other people who you can take you onto set, where you can see the film getting made. So get yourself into the network, and start now. It's never too late to start. Whether you're 50, whether you're 60, whether you're 10, or whether you're 12, whether you're start. And because networks are super important in this industry, you can't ignore that. So if you can be in the network, try your best to say, this year I'm definitely going to do to see the film. If you are in Durban or if you are in KZN, if you are in Northwest, go to the Rustenburg Film Festival. There was a first. If you are in Joburg, go to GFF. So put yourself in the space, meet the people, and trust. Energies are there. I don't know how many people I've met in my life who are now filmmakers, yourselves. There's so many individuals I've met who then would say, "Oh, Naledi, I'm struggling. Do you have something?" Or, "Oh, Naledi, I have a gig. Can you produce for me?" Or, "Oh, Naledi, can you just look at the story, and the script edit for us?" So we meet each other in the space. If you say, "Hi, Naledi, I have nothing. I don't do, but I really want to do this thing. How do I do it?" So, for instance, this year we decided to also open within the Africa Film Institute. We decided to have another section of calling for script, where it doesn't matter if you went to school or not, or it's a screenwriting fellowship, right? Where we are looking at story. Can you write the story? And you participate in the program for free. You get selected at an application fee of 200 rand, and we work with the story on your first short film, official short film, your first official film to go into the industry. After making all the shots maybe that you've made in film school, or you've never made a shot before. So you submit your script. We work with it from the beginning up until funding, up until we go to set with you, and we put you in, then we'll let you fly. And our first film was the comedy film that we just did with Wakemalachi, which is his first feature. And he was ready to do a feature, so we did his first feature. We went through the process together. And he'll be debuting next year. So get yourself in the space, find people you are aligned with ideas. Who would you like to mentor? You meet them in the space, and then it will happen.
That is really amazing. That is
like even for people that are just like an audience, or maybe that are going to listen to this interview, it's amazing that you guys have this institute, you know, this platform, because I know so many people that are like aspiring filmmakers, people that the reason I actually wanted to start this podcast and the YouTube channel is because so many people kept coming to me on my DMs. Hey KG, I want to study film. What should I do? I mean, I can say apply. Okay, I've applied. What do I do now? You know, like, yeah, but it's really amazing that you guys have these platforms. Naledi, I think we are running out of time. Yeah, but I really want to say thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you for the insight that you've given us, and this is really helpful to me and for the people the audience. Yeah, we are really, really, really grateful, and I will reach out to you to get links to these things that you mentioned, and then I'll just put them in the description so that people that are interested in being a part of the institution or participating in any of the things that you mentioned.
Institution, it's a movement. It's a movement.
Sorry, movement. The movement, excuse me. Yeah.
We're moving together, yes.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Naledi. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. And my film Bannned is going to be at ADIF, which is the African Diaspora International Film Festival in December. So those Africans or South Africans who are in the diaspora can see it in New York, and I'll be there as well with the film. And this is a film that I believe that every South African must see.
Yes.
Bannned is important. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And congratulations yet again. You are Naledi, you are a star. Your name literally says it. You're doing amazing things.